probably don't know this, and you wouldn't think of this, was born in Union, Utah. And as a boy, he suffered a debilitating speech impediment that caused children to laugh and bully him. Kelly's life was changed when his 6th grade teacher took him under his wing to tutor him. Because of the love and determination of this committed educator and the support of his stepmother, Georgia, Kelly overcame his speech impediment. How many of us have had those educators that have made an influence and an impact in our life? Kelly then worked his way through the University of Utah as a night custodian. He is the first college graduate in his family. He majored in political science and minored in communications, receiving a Bachelor of Science degree. Kelly's love of government caused him to run for political office in 1986. He became the first member of his political party elected from his legislative district since the Great Depression. As a state representative, Kelly specialized in education legislation, serving on the powerful Education Appropriation Committee during his entire legislative career. He served as a minority whip of the Utah House of Representatives from 1990 till 1996, when he left the Utah legislature to make an unsuccessful bid for the United States Congress. Professionally, Kelly served as the executive director of the Utah School Employees Association, representing over 7,200 classified professionals working for Utah's 40 school districts. In 1996, he was elected as the president of the most prominent independent public employees association in the nation at the time, the American Association of Classified School Employees. In 1997, he retired from the USEA several years later and started a successful contract lobbying firm. He retired from his second career in April of 2019. Now, for the Rotary part. Kelly is a charter member of the West Jordan Rotary Club, started in 1987 by Bob Lantenberger, a hospital administrator. Bob invited Kelly to join the new club. Hopefully it wasn't at a hospital, Patrick. Kelly has served in many different capacities in Rotary and has just completed a three-year term as Rotary Zone Coordinator for Zone 27. He and his wife, Penny, are members of the Arch Club Society. He recently finished his second term as president of his beloved West Jordan Rotary Club. Kelly is a recipient of the Rotary Service Above Self Award, Rotary's highest honor given to any Rotarian. The Atkinsons, this is the fun part, have hosted 31 exchange students. So if you need some advice about hosting youth exchange, they're your folks. And their 2 boys and 2 of their 3 grandsons have experienced a foreign exchange as well. Kelly lives in Harriman with his high school sweetheart, Penny, who's here with him. They have been married for 52 years. Penny, a Rotarian herself and a past district governor, is the current Rotary Youth Protection Officer in the district. She has a master's degree in business administration and recently retired as a human resource specialist. So please join me in welcoming Kelly and Penny Atkinson. And Kelly, please come on up.
I need the handheld. We have a
Yeah, you can just take it off.
Can you hear me?
Testing.
There we go. Monica! Woo! I didn't expect you to read. Oh, I'm a little bit embarrassed. You know what I call Monica? She's the governor to be. Kristen, a governor to be maybe. She's so far out from the governorship, she could get hit by a low-flying crop duster at any time. You know? Governor Dwayne, I'm so happy to be here today. I'm so honored to be in this district with so many of my friends. 5840. So many of my friends. It's just great to see Eric and Sandra. It's great to see you. Patrick and Amber, we've been on the trail together, following them around. I love them. They're like a dysfunctional marriage, right? You can't take your eyes off these 2 people. I've heard that presentation on a number of times. a number of times I've heard that presentation. It just gets better and better and better. They are coming to Salt Lake City. We're going to have them come to Salt Lake City. We'll put them in separate bedrooms, but they're coming, which they prefer. Some people said to me, you know they're not married. And I said, yes, I know. They both have life partners and they're in relationships and they're great people. I get that. I understand that. But they are wonderful, wonderful people. Because people see them and the way they play off each other and they think, they're in a dysfunctional marriage. but it works so great, and I always learn from your presentation. Judy, what a wonderful morning. I've been at 6 conferences this year, all over the western United States, 6 different conferences. And I have to tell you, the speakers that you had this morning are some of the best that I've seen. And I can't say that. So you just know from here, it's all downhill. Right? I want to talk about the 4-way test today. But I first want to tell you why I'm here. Why would you invite somebody to the great state of Texas where you've had three presidents of the United States? Contribution you made. Where you go to your Capitol building in Austin and you see that exact replica. It's an exact replica. The United States Capitol is so cool to go in your... Where's Sam Houston and Davy Crockett? And my personal favorite, Jim Bowie, because he had a big Bowie knife, right? My personal favorite. I mean, I used to hear those tales told as a boy and thought, why can't I be a Texan? Well, that's because I'm a Utah, right? Some people are born on this side of the luck line, Texans, and then Kelly's born on this side of the luck line, Utah. Okay, but I just want to tell you, this is why I'm here. I understand that Governor Judy, she thought, well, for this section, our All Clubs Day, I want the best looking person that I can get to come speak at All Clubs Day. So she called that person and they turned her down flat. Can you believe that? I can't believe that. I mean, such an honor to come to 5840. I thought, this is ridiculous. Then I understood, she said, well, if I can't have eye candy for our All Clubs Day, I'll call the smartest person I know. And that person turned her down flat. And then I received a call from her. And she said, Kelly, could you consider coming down to 5840? And I said, Judy, since you've called me twice before, accept the invitation. Today we're going to be talking about, that does not pass the 4-way test. Just so we make it clear, that is not passing the 4-way test. Here is our beloved 4-way test. How many of you say the 4-way test in your clubs? Look around the room. Look around the room. It's an icon of ethical standards. It's the gold standard. It's the litmus test for those of us that engage in ethical behavior. Yet I'm going to submit to you today, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Rotarians, guests, that most of us have not invested think time into really what the 4-way test means. We say it all the time, but Governor, a lot of us have not invested the time to think about it, to really break it down. So let's talk a little bit about the 4-way test.
Finally, this week, at a time when truth is under attack from adults, the search for wisdom has led us to a child. Steve Hartman Better, On the Road.
Of all the things a little girl can aspire to be, 11-year-old Charlotte McCourt of South Orange, New Jersey says the most important of these is to be truthful.
Yes, it's like a core feeling.
Why so important to you?
Because if you're not honest, then what are you?
Charlotte says the first 8 words of the Girl Scout law are, "I will do my best to be honest." So when it came time to peddle her Girl Scout cookies this year, she decided to tell her customers the whole truth. In this letter to one customer that went viral on the internet, she wrote, "The Girl Scout organization can sometimes use false advertisement." She then graded the cookies. She gave the Do-Si-Do a 5 for its unoriginal bland flavor, while saving most of her venom for the dreaded Toffee-tastic. She gave it a 1 for being a bleak, flavorless, gluten-free wasteland. It's as flavorless as dirt, she wrote.
My sister and I threw out the box. Like, we tried everything. We tried dunking it in tea. We tried dunking it in hot chocolate. It was just gross. Girl Scout cookies.
As you might expect, brutal honesty like that can have a dramatic impact on sales. Charlotte was hoping to sell 300 boxes this year,
Is that all?
but she got nowhere near that. Nowhere near.
That's you?
That is all me.
When we visited last week, she had already sold more than 23,000 boxes. A Girl Scout record.
How do you explain this?
Truth in advertising.
Apparently, honesty has become such an aberration.
See, look.
The truth so sadly missed that when all these people read Charlotte's letter, they felt compelled to support her.
I sold thousands of smalls and thousands of Thin Mints
Have you sold any Toffee-tastics?
to my grandmother.
It was before Charlotte wrote the letter.
Just a box.
So then she gave one to her friend who
Who has a dog? Okay.
So there's your hope, America, that even in a world of fake news and alternative facts, honesty can and will prevail. Steve Hartman, On the Road, in South Orange, New Jersey.
That's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For all of us at CBS News all around the world, good night.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Is it the truth? There is never a time that that's needed more today, especially in our great country, than it's needed today. Is it the truth? That's what we stand for. That's what we believe in. That's who we are as Rotarians. When we call ourselves a Rotarian, we adhere to the 4-way test. You can't claim to be a Rotarian and set the 4-way test aside when it's convenient and then put the cloak on again. You can't set it aside when it's inconvenient and put it on when it's convenient. You have to wear the 4-way test. It has to be inculcated into the very being that you are, because the truth matters. It matters today. It mattered yesterday. It's going to matter tomorrow. And that's what we should be marketing, that we are people of character. We're people of ethics. We're people that look outward and not inward. And when we do that, people will gravitate to us. It's what brought people together when Paul Harris started our organization. It's what's going to keep this organization together in the next century. Recently we had our governor come, not our district governor, but the governor of the state of Utah, called and asked a club in our district if they would bring together a group of Rotarians, because he wanted to address the Rotarians. When he came to that meeting, we had a number of Rotarians there, fairly nice turnout for him, and this is what he had to say. Take a minute and read that. That's what he had to say. He said, I'm here in this room because of the 4-way test. and who you are as Rotarians, and the role that you and I can play collectively to bring our state, hopefully our nation, together rather than the division we're experiencing. Now, all of us know the divisions we're experiencing. I'm not here to share with you the division. You're living it every single day as I'm living it every single day. We see it. It's permeated not only our political discussions, but it's permeated the way that we talk to one another, the way that we treat one another, the way we act towards each other. No time in American history, if you study, if you're a student of American history, has there been more division in this land than right now, except for the Civil War. Except for the Civil War. It's time, Rotarians, that we put the cloak on of the four-way test and stand up. Even when the truth may be inconvenient, even when the truth may disappoint us, it's time that we stand up and have the courage to say, I'm as disappointed as the next person that's sitting next to me. I wish things would have turned out different in the election. I wish we would treat one another better. It's time that we stand up and say, we have more in common than we have apart. Let's look for the common areas and accentuate them and figure out how we're going to work through our divisions. We can't demonize what I call, as a former politician, I was successful as a state legislator because I didn't see blue or red or even purple. I saw people. The reason I was one of the most successful legislators, according to the Deseret News, as a four-time effective legislator, was that I didn't see parties. I just saw people that needed solutions to problems and to reach out to other people and want to work through those problems to make a better society. Isn't that what we stand for as Rotarians? Isn't that what we believe as Rotarians? We want to make the world better, not worse. And so if we're engaging in those type of activities, aren't we part of the problem rather than the solution? That's what we've got to ask ourselves. You're all going to have to assess that for yourself, as I have to assess that. By the way, one year, the Deseret News mentioned me, a member of the minority party, as the most effective legislator on Capitol Hill. The second most effective legislator was the Speaker of the House. I'm on the floor of the House. I get a call from Nolan Karras. Nolan Karras calls me up. Now, when you're in the legislative body, you don't hear a ring. There's a light and it blinks. You know somebody's on the telephone. So I look and it's on the telephone. I pick it up. Kelly. I recognize the voice immediately as the Speaker. I said, Mr. Speaker. I look up the dais, there he is, he's got his newspaper out. Says, well, I'm reading this newspaper today. I said, really? He says, here, you're the most effective legislator on Capitol Hill. Congratulations. And I said, well, Mr. Speaker, you know how they embellish those things. You're much more effective than I am, Mr. Speaker. You know that you're much more effective. You're the Speaker of the House. You have control of the whole budget. I mean, it's just a newspaper. Who pays any attention to that? He said, no. I want you to know you're the most effective legislator according to Deseret News, and I really want you to enjoy it. I paused and waited. Because it's never going to happen again. You remember a time when Newt Gingrich, do you remember when he worked with President Clinton? Do you remember a time when Tip O'Neill, one of the most liberal legislators ever to be Speaker of the House, worked with Ronald Reagan for the betterment of this country? Do we remember those times? we can play an important role. And that's what the governor was saying. You can play an important role in that. So when we evaluate the four-way test, I invited a guest today, Herb Taylor. Let's hear what Herb Taylor, the author of the four-way test, has to say about this icon of ethical standard.
Back in 1932, I was assigned, by the creditors of the Club Aluminum Products Company, the task of saving the company from being closed out as a bankrupt organization. The company was a distributor of cookware and other household items. We found that the company owed its creditors more than $400,000 in excess of its total assets. It was bankrupt, but still alive. At that time, we borrowed $6,100 from a Chicago bank to give us a little cash on which to operate. While we had a good product, our competitors also had fine cookware with well-advertised brand names. Our company had some fine people working for it, but our competitors also had the same. Our competitors were naturally in much stronger financial condition than we were. With tremendous obstacles and handicaps facing us, we felt that we must develop something in our organization which our competitors would not have an equal amount. We determined, first, to be very careful in the selection of our personnel and, second, to help them become better men and women as they progressed with our company. We believed that in right there is might, and we determined to do our best to always be right. We felt that we needed a simple measuring stick of ethics which everyone in the company could quickly memorize. We also believed that the proposed test should not tell our people what they must do, but ask them questions which would make it possible for them to find out whether their proposed plans, policies, statements, or actions were right or wrong. One day in July 1932, I decided to pray about the matter. That morning I leaned over my desk and asked God to give us a simple guide to help us think, speak, and do that which was right. I immediately picked up a white card and wrote out the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. I placed the little test under the glass of my desk and determined to try it out for a few days before talking to anyone else in the company about it. I had a very discouraging experience. I almost threw it into the waste paper basket the first day when I checked everything that passed over my desk with the first question, is it the truth? I never realized before how far I often was from the truth, and how many untruths appeared in our company's literature, letters, and advertising. The checking of advertising copy against the four-way test resulted in the elimination of statements, the truth of which could not be proved. All superlatives such as the words better, best, greatest, and finest disappeared from our advertisements. As a result, the public gradually placed more confidence in what we stated in our advertisements and bought more of our products. Through over 20 years of sincere effort on the part of our personnel, we have been making progress toward reaching the ideals expressed in the four-way test. We have been rewarded with a steady increase in sales, profits, and earnings of our personnel. From a bankrupt condition in 1932, our company, within a period of some 20 years, had paid its debts in full, had paid its stockholders over $1 million in dividends, and had a value of over $2 million. All these rewards have come from a cash investment of only $6,100, the four-way test, and some good hard-working people who have faith in God and high ideals. Intangible dividends from the use of the four-way test have been even greater than the financial ones. We have enjoyed a constant increase in the goodwill, friendship, and confidence of our customers, our competitors, and the public, and what is even more valuable, a great improvement in the moral character of our own personnel. We have found that you cannot apply the four-way test continuously to all your relations with others 8 hours each day in business without getting into the habit of doing it in your home, social, and community life. You thus become a better father, a better friend, and a better citizen.
How many have heard that before? Look around. Look around. How many have heard it before? Okay, thank you. Very few of us as Rotarians have ever heard what Herb Taylor had to say about the four-way test. Did you hear anything? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Did you hear that? No. He wrote that. But the first and foremost thing that he talked about is it the truth? So when I go to a Rotary meeting and they give the four-way test, And they don't say, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third and fourth, they just say, is it fair to all is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? They don't number it. They're not giving the four-way test as Herb Taylor presented it. Most people think that the four-way test is all tenants are equal. Have you ever been charged in your Rotary club by a Rotarian that was angry at something you said or you did and said, "You're not living the four-way test"? Walked up. Have you ever had that experience? Because I've had. You're not living the four-way test. Well, help me understand what I'm not living. Did I speak the truth? Well, yeah, you spoke the truth. But it wasn't fair to all concerned. So let me tell you this. One day I come home from work and I'm sitting, I pull into the driveway and I notice that my next door neighbor is sitting in his truck, his pickup truck, with his 16-year-old stepdaughter at 6 p.m. at night, and he's making out with her. Well, it didn't build goodwill and better friendships when I turned him in for what he was doing. It didn't do. Is it the truth? What Herb Taylor meant by putting numbers on this test, I believe, you assess it for yourself, is the first thing we do, we don't think it, we don't speak it, and we don't say it if it's not the truth. If it's not the truth, we just set it apart. Or if we don't have evidence that it's the truth, we just set it aside. We don't speak it, we don't say it, we don't do it. We don't create the problems. But if it's the truth, then we assess, is it fair to all concerned? We try to reconcile that. Sometimes we can't. In the situation I just told you, I couldn't reconcile that. I knew it wasn't going to be fair to all concerned. I knew that was sitting down in Utah State Prison, had a lot of time to think about what he'd done and what he was doing, that he wasn't going to say, geez, I get warm fuzzies when I think about this. It's not going to happen. We need to look at what we think, we say, we do, and attempt to reconcile it. So, on the other end of the spectrum, how would you apply the four-way test? If someone came to me and said, Kelly, you're fat, is it the truth? Well, you want evidence? It is the truth. That is truth. But is that truth necessary to speak? Will that truth be fair to all concerned? Will it foster goodwill and better friendships? Well, in my case, I would probably just laugh them off. But we've already heard from some of our speakers, some people get really hurt by that. Is that necessary? Is it really necessary to speak the truth all the time? That's what Herb Taylor was saying. Always speak the truth, and then try to reconcile it. That shouldn't keep us from speaking the truth if it's important to speak the truth. But if it's not going to foster goodwill and better friendships and you don't have to speak it, don't speak it. That's what he was saying. If it won't be beneficial to all concerned, maybe we shouldn't speak it. We need to reconcile it against those things. And as Rotarians, we need to be the cheerleaders of this. In the things that we're going through in this great country today, not only in our political realm, but just get on social media and see how people treat one another, see how they say things to one another. The most hurtful things, to have our young people going out and killing themselves because they read something mean-spirited and ugly that I guarantee you that if that person was face-to-face with them, would never have the courage to say it. We have a role to play, Rotarians. We're as relevant today as we were when Herb Taylor, when Paul Harris brought these high ethical standards to the forefront. And so, when we start to point our fingers, as we do so often, in not only the political realm, but all aspects of our lives, do what my father told me. says, son, when you point your finger, look at where the other three are pointing. Many of you are shaking your heads because your fathers and mothers told you the same thing. I am proud to be a Rotarian. I'm not perfect in the four-way test. It's easy to talk about it. It's hard to administer it. It's hard to be consistent. It's hard to determine sometimes if you're fair to all concerned. It's hard to determine whether or not you should speak those things. But what Herb Taylor was telling us when he created the four-way test in the 1930s, and it was adopted by Rotary International in the 1950s, is we become better human beings. We become more compassionate human beings. We become better citizens of the world when we at least pause for a moment and reflect on whether we're living the four-way test. Thank you.